Did the Seattle Seahawks make the wrong selection with BYRON Murphy II? Let's talk about it. Well, the Seattle Seahawks had a very interesting situation drafting at the 16th overall pick this year in the 2024 draft because there was such a huge run on offensive players. There wasn't a defensive player drafted until 15, where Laiatu Latu from UCLA was drafted, and because of guys like Michael Penix, Bo Nix getting drafted in the top 12, it allowed for the Seahawks to take a defensive guy that they didn't really think was able to fall to them, and that ended up being BYRON Murphy II. A lot of NFL draft, predictions had him going somewhere around 10 through 17. Some people did have him falling to the Seahawks, but a guy that no one had falling to 16 was Dallas Turner, edge from Alabama. This was a guy that on a lot of people's draft boards was the best defensive player in the draft and someone that was going to go top 10 overall, and your Seattle Seahawks had a chance to draft him. And unfortunately, in my opinion, the Seahawks did not do that. Now, look, do I think BYRON Murphy's a bad selection? No, I don't. I think he's going to be a solid player in the NFL. He's not going to be anything super special, as most defensive tackles really aren't something super special, but he's going to be really good for the Seattle Seahawks. It's a good pick at 16. It's a low ceiling, low floor, somewhat low ceiling selection where you kind of know what you're going to get, He's a smaller defensive tackle that, can definitely pressure the quarterback, but can also stop the run. He's a good selection from Texas. But there is a guy named Dallas Turner who is a potential game wrecker from Alabama, and that's a guy that I just would have loved to have. He's a way higher ceiling than BYRON Murphy. I think he's frankly the better player as of right now, and he's an edge. And I think that's really the big thing for me. I think the Seahawks really needed that edge more than that defensive tackle, and that's not because the Seahawks necessarily had more talent at edge than at tackle. I mean, right now, obviously, you got Draymond Jones, you got Jaron Reed at edge, you got, obviously Leonard Williams, and then in the middle, you got now BYRON Murphy, you got Jonathan Hankins, young Cameron, all those different guys for the Seahawks, where it's kind of like you don't really know what to think. It's an interesting situation for both the edge and the tackle, but why I would pick edge over tackle isn't necessarily because I think the Seahawks have worse edges than tackles. I think it's because edge is just simply a more important position in the NFL. I think they can affect the game way more. You've seen guys like Aaron Donald, TJ Watt, JJ Watt, Nick Bosa, etc., affect games and really change the outlook on a contest in a way that defensive tackles really can't do. Like, yes, on 3rd and 2, and you need a stop, and you hand the ball off to Saquon Barkley, who's going to make that tackle? It's going to be a guy like BYRON Murphy, and that's great. And that's perfect. But who is going to make Patrick Mahomes pressured for 60 minutes of football? It's not going to be BYRON Murphy, even though he did lead all of college football with the most quarterback pressures in college football. I don't know why I just drew a blank there. He did lead the college in that out of all defensive tackles, but it's still not the same as an edge rusher. He won't get nearly as many sacks. I just don't think he'll affect the game as much as a Dallas Turner. So was it a mistake by the Seahawks? Going back to my initial question, I don't think it was necessarily a mistake. However, I don't think it was the right selection. So if you want to call it a mistake, sure. I think he's going to end up being a really, really good NFL player, which is why I don't think it's necessarily a mistake or a bad decision to draft him. However, with Dallas Turner falling to you all the way at 16, someone that I don't think the Seahawks really thought they were going to have there, maybe that's why they did end up going with BYRON Murphy, is because they simply had more data on him and were doing more research on Murphy compared to Turner, but when Turner falls to a 16, that's a generational type talent in a way that BYRON Murphy simply isn't. It's not a bad selection, but I would have definitely gone in a different way. And now the Seahawks, in my mind, still really don't have that elite defensive edge pass rusher, and you're not going to be able to fill that hole in the third round or on. So it's going to have to be an off-season thing, or it's going to have to be a next year drafts thing. And next year, I really want to get a quarterback. So then it's like, well, you're probably not going to get an elite edge rusher in the the second or third round next year. So it kind of puts you in a tough spot where it feels like you kind of handcuffed yourself to not having that elite pass rusher, that top 10 pass rusher in the NFL by not drafting Turner here, where if you drafted Dallas Turner from Alabama, it kind of feels like you would have at least given yourself a shot to have one of those premier pass rushers. Unfortunately, the Seahawks don't do that. Again, don't think it's a mistake. I think there was a better option, though. Will be interesting to see what the Seahawks do in this draft. They don't have a second-round pick. They have a third-round pick. They could have also traded down. That could have been an option instead of drafting BYRON Murphy. But again, what are you going to do? I mean, you're going to trade down. Maybe you wanted to take, the offensive lineman from Washington. Maybe you could think that BYRON Murphy was going to fall a few more spots. I'm not exactly sure what you would have done there. I like not trading down. I think the selection was wrong, but BYRON Murphy will be a solid player in the NFL. And that's about all I got. It'll be interesting to see what the Seahawks do with their other picks in this draft. If you want to know about what we think about those picks, and if you want to see reactions, everything you need to know about that player, etc. If you're a Mariners fan and you want to watch post games, this is the spot for you. The NW Sportscast, all things Mariners and Seahawks. Leave a like, comment, and subscribe. See you guys.